Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Thailand, Your Excellency, President of Kiribati, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Nauru, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Fiji, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Tuvalu, Deputy Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, Prime Minister of the Cook Islands, Your Excellency, Senior Minister of Cambodia, Acting Chair of the 70th session of the Commission, Mr. Wu Hongbu, my colleague from United Nations, Under Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the 71st session of the Commission. 2015 is a year of global and regional opportunity. Our joint responsibility is to foster long-term shared prosperity. We meet this year amid a confluence of key events, among them the 70th anniversary of the adoption of the United Nations Charter, the 20th year of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and the 10th anniversary of the Kyoto Protocol. This year, global leaders will lay the foundations of a far-reaching new sustainable development agenda. Sustainability will be further reinforced with a new agreement on climate change and new global partnerships. Distinguished delegates, our region is well known for its resources, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit. Recurring and escalating vulnerabilities and exogenous shocks, however, demand vigilance and course correction. The hesitant global recovery, rising inequalities, and environmental stress call for adjustments in traditional growth models and paths. Furthermore, our region is home to more than 1.4 billion people still living in poverty. 6 of the top 10 emitters, accounting for more than half of total greenhouse emissions, and growing social deficits. Changing global and regional dynamics is call and necessary. Adjustments to development paths are warranted. This involves emphasis on 5 areas. First, domestic consumption and demand drive has to be our future course of action rather than sole dependence on export demand-driven models led by growth in investment and trade. 2, pursuit of inclusive growth, which is critical to reinforce sustainability. ESCAP's new multidimensional Inclusiveness Index offers a tool to understand and track progress on inclusiveness. 3, structural reforms. Critical, as delays are hurting potential growth. Economies need to improve competitiveness, innovation, and productivity, fast-track infrastructure development, promote next-generation trade facilitation, and formulate and communicate intended nationally determined contributions to global climate change mitigation targets. 4th, regional economic cooperation and integration by, among others, enhance transboundary connectivity, action on environmental hazards, and financial and trade integration. Building on the success of ASEAN Economic Community and Euro-Asian Economic Union, there is need for us to foster regional cooperation among other regional, sub-regional blocs. ESCAP will be hosting the second ministerial conference on regional economic cooperation and integration in Asia and the Pacific in December. Fifth, adoption of balanced and integrated development to tackle multiple forms of deprivation, including disparities between genders, income brackets, and across the urban-rural divide. This will open new economic opportunities through access to quality education, quality healthcare, improved sanitation, clean drinking water, and reliable energy. Investing in social development is a key driver of deeper and more sustained economic growth and therefore development. Excellencies, our regional report on Millennium Development Goals, to be released this afternoon, highlights that Asia and the Pacific has achieved 13 out of the 21 targets, which we track. As we transition from MDGs to the Sustainable Development Goals, we have intensified our regional consultations on sustainable development and financing with policymakers, civil society, and the business community, as well as drawing on experience gained during Millennium Development Goals implementation. Besides addressing substantial unfinished business, the SDGs call for integrated approaches to development, country ownership, and good governance, supported by the global and regional partnership in areas such as finance, technology, and data, which currently leave much to be desired. In order to better service your intergovernmental priorities and post-2015 development agenda, we are also strengthening the analytical and capacity building work of the Secretariat. Excellencies, to promote the voice and priorities of the countries with special needs, ESCAP is promoting the Samoa pathway of the Third International Conference on the Small Island Developing States, the SIDS, the Vienna Program of Action for the Landlocked Developing Countries, and Siem Reap Anchor Outcome of the Least Developed Countries. Just yesterday, our special body on LDCs, the landlocked developing countries, the Pacific Island developing countries, featured an unprecedented dialogue among 6 leaders of Pacific states about our follow-up on the Samoa pathway. These intergovernmental priorities have been supported by ESCAP's work on LDC graduation, LLDC economic diversification and connectivity, and our new Asia-Pacific countries with special needs development report, which is going to be launched this week. For 2014 to 2015, ESCAP has increased technical assistance to countries with special needs by more than 30% compared to the 2012 to 2013 biennium. Excellencies, with your support, the Secretariat is taking steps to advance holistic regional connectivity. In too many countries of the region, logistics cost, for instance, exceed 20% of the GDP, compared to about 8% in Singapore and 10% in Japan. Regional integrated intermodal and multimodal transport and logistics system could combine the strengths of our trans-Asian railway and Asian highway networks into a single integrated intermodal system with the inclusion of dry ports and maritime transport. The launch of a number of large-scale regional initiatives, including China's Silk Road Economic Belt and 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, the Republic of Korea's Euro-Asian Initiative, and the Central South Asia Corridor, has also seen the emergence of investment pooling mechanisms to support regional infrastructure projects, such as through the establishment of the Asian Infrastructure Bank, and more recently, Japan's allocation of 110 billion for infrastructure, along with capital augmentation by the multilateral development banks. To take advantage of these opportunities, our economies need to strengthen enabling environments, fast-track project development and pipelines, and improve legislation to encourage private sector participation and funding. Further work on energy connectivity will also be launched to support the outcomes of intergovernmental deliberations at the first Asian and Pacific Energy Forum in 2013 and Resolution 70/9 last year. ESCAP has developed an Asia-Pacific Energy Forum implementation support mechanism and is preparing for the second round of the forum to be held in Tonga in 2018. To close the widening digital divide in the region, our intergovernmental processes are negotiating principles and norms and preparing a master plan for the proposed Asia-Pacific Information Superhighway to provide affordable and reliable access to broadband internet for all. Within the overall framework of leaving no one behind, the pursuit of social justice calls for equal rights and access for all people in the Asia-Pacific region. To these ends, your intergovernmental work has established progressive regional norms to advance gender equality and women's empowerment, remove discriminatory legal barriers, and promote universal access to health and social services, as well as equal rights, particularly for marginalized social groups. To address rising inequalities, the Secretariat will assist governments to build comprehensive social protection systems which promote decent work, income security, and universal health care. The recent 20-year review of the Beijing Platform of Action resulted in the adoption of the Asian and Pacific Ministerial Declaration on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. To support implementation of the declaration, we are proposing the establishment of an ESCAP resource facility for innovative financing for gender equality. For the midterm review in 2017 of the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, the Secretariat will step up support for generating comparable disability statistics. This will also help us to monitor the progress in implementation of Incheon strategy to make the right real disability considerations will also be mainstreamed in disaster risk reduction work. We are going to be opening a disability center today in ESCAP with support of Korea. To better harness our regional youth dividend, work is also underway on the links between social exclusion and youth participation in employment, education, and civic affairs. Excellencies, at your request and to help inform these Commission deliberations, the Secretariat has produced our 2015 theme study, Balancing the Three Dimensions of Sustainable Development from Integration to Implementation. It advocates social justice and ecological protection as primary policy objectives and pursuit of balanced integration and policy shifts crucial to the achievement of robust and inclusive growth and sustainability. In the Asia-Pacific Forum for Sustainable Development deliberations that we had last week, member states highlighted 5 prerequisites for balanced and integrated development. 1, building resilience. We need to leverage economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainability in an integrated manner. Governments call themselves to mainstream inclusive and green growth in their development plans and budgets, build capacities to address climate adaptation and mitigation, and offer the right incentives for adoption of appropriate technologies. National capacities need to be harnessed, they said, to nurture resilience, to withstand, adapt to, and recover from the shocks of natural disasters. At the 3rd World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, Japan, in March this year, we released Resilient Business for Resilient Nations and Communities publication. It is an analysis of 40 years of Asia-Pacific disasters and a policy guide on pro-poor urban climate resilience. We continue to offer support for implementation of the Sendai outcomes, the first agreed elements of the post-2015 development agenda. 2, investing in environment. Challenges such as climate change, environmental degradation, and pollution, as well as overexploitation of water sources, impact every part of our economies and societies, especially our most vulnerable groups. The Asia-Pacific region needs more efficient use of natural resources and strengthening of the rule of law and its enforcement, as was deliberated at the Environment Ministers Forum last week. These investments will have high payoffs for a more livable future. 3rd, financing for development. In our regional consultations on financing for development, you have recognized the need to channel the large and growing pool of regional savings into sustainable investments. Our estimates indicate it could cost the region 2.1 to 2.5 trillion per year to close infrastructure gaps, expand basic social protection, and address climate mitigation and adaptation. Financial markets need to invest in development, finally, through the inclusive and efficient resource distribution, and must be prepared to deploy risk and long-term funds with budgets offering the needed risk management support for private investment. Today, we are exploring partnership to establish an Asia-Pacific Tax Forum, which will offer regional capacity building for enhancing domestic resource mobilization and international tax cooperation. Member states have also called for higher allocations and effective deployment of the official development assistance flows to our countries with special needs, and its exploitation for building capacity capacities in domestic resource mobilization, the development of capital markets, and to leverage other funding. 4, promoting science, technology, and innovation is very critical, is the message coming out from New York as well as from all member states. Meaningful progress on many of the 17 proposed goals will only be possible with the development and application of new and improved technologies. ESCAP will be working with you all to strengthen science, technology, innovation capacities, particularly in the countries with special needs, through improvement of national innovation systems, supporting regional cooperation in new and emerging technologies, and sharing best practices. The Commission's regional cooperation in ICT and space technologies has already helped us, you all, and most of all, vulnerable communities, to manage natural disasters. But for the benefits of STI to be fully harnessed, a regional roadmap will be developed to align national STI strategies for achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. 5th, effective data follow-up and review. Follow-up and review of the Sustainable Development Goals implementation has been an integral part of the global negotiations. The likely mandate and role of the regional commissions will be to support member states to develop baseline information and to ensure coherence and consistency in implementation. This will require increased investment in relevant, measurable, accurate, complete, timely, and internationally comparable data and statistics, as well as the strengthening of national statistical systems. ESCAP's Committee on Statistics, with coordinated support from a range of partners, is playing a critical role in promoting regional capabilities to provide by 2020 an agreed basic range of statistics, particularly for our countries with special needs. Regional action for civil registration and vital statistics is a central part of these efforts. Contextualization and localization of the Sustainable Development Goals to fit national circumstances and big data and data analytics will be game changers. Excellencies, in conclusion, 7 decades ago, 51 countries agreed to pursue social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. The Charter of the United Nations remains as important today as it was in 1945. Now, as then, success demands action. Finance will drive sustainable development. As we take the first steps in the next phase of our shared development journey, the people of Asia Pacific are poised to lead in economic growth, in social innovation, and environmental stewardship. We look to you, the leaders of our region, to seize the opportunities of sustainable development and to ensure that 2015 marks the real start of the Asia-Pacific century. I thank you again and look greatly forward to our deliberations this week. And I will be here to listen the whole day through. Thank you very much for being here.